studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelley's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelley.
We've got a lot to discuss here tonight and a very short amount of time to do it. So thank you so much for joining us tonight here on WDBO. And let me welcome our first guest, United States Senator Rick Scott. Senator Scott, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We've got a number of questions to ask you. And I want to start off with China, and you have been incredibly consistent with your criticisms of China, certainly since you've been in the Senate, certainly in the governor's office before that. But when we can't figure out what the origins of COVID actually are, and we're now led to believe that it was a lab leak, I mean, where does that leave us?
Well, here's the deal. I think we all are convinced it was a lab leak, right? That's number one. Number two is we all know that China covered it up, all right? Number three is we know China is not our friend. They've decided to be our enemy. They've decided to be our enemy. They don't like our way of life. Think about this for a second. They're sending fentanyl to the country. 70,000 people a year are dying of fentanyl overdose thanks to communist China. Number two, they build a military to defeat us. They've already taken over Hong Kong, took away the basic rights. They're threatening Taiwan, right? They're surveilling us. It's not just this Chinese spy balloon. They got Chinese drones. They got TikTok, which is horrible for our teenagers. Our government's buying drones from China that surveil us. This is the craziest thing in the world. Chinese apps are bad for us. So I mean, you could almost just go on and on and on. We have to stop buying their crap.
Does it not seem like that China has already declared war against us and we just don't recognize that?
Absolutely. I mean, they steal our jobs, they steal our technology, they lie about everything. We give them most favored nation status for trade. Why in God's green earth would we do that? They go to the international organizations like the UN and just trash us and lie about us? I mean, Americans got to wake up. Whether we like it or not, they've decided to be our enemy. They want to destroy us, and they're doing it. I mean, think about it. 70,000 people died of fentanyl overdose. It's coming from China. That's a big deal.
Now, of course,
I did a roundtable yesterday with parents that lost their kids. You lose your kid to one pill. One pill and they're dead.
Senator Scott, as you alluded, originates in China, but it makes its way into our country through our wide open borders in the Southwest and now even to the north.
It's wide open. Go down there. Just go down there. It's wide open. You just walk across. Border Patrol picks you up. They're trying to do the job that Biden administration won't let them. An hour later, with no ID, they can get on a commercial flight with you. Right? They can fly anywhere in this country they want, and we pay it. We pay for them to be here. We got criminals coming. We got wonderful people and live our dream, but this is not legal. We got terrorists coming. They just shut down the tethered surveillance things to give us an idea of what's coming across the border. I mean, the Biden administration has decided, for whatever godforsaken reason, to have an open border. They decided this. I mean, I don't get it. It's like they don't care about fentanyl deaths. They don't care about the criminals coming. They don't care about terrorists coming.
They claim it's under control.
Yeah,
but any casual observer, any casual observer can find that there is a massive problem at the border.
It's a mess. I mean, why would we stop building the wall? Why would we stop it? Why would we shut down the cameras and the roads and the lights? I mean, that's what they did. Go to the border. Why wouldn't we enforce our asylum laws? Why would we say, you know what, we want immigration, but it's got to be legal. And it's got to be people that want to live our dreams. I don't want some criminal coming into this country that's going to harm an American citizen. I don't want terrorists coming here to plan for another 9/11. I mean, who in their right mind would not secure our border, the southern border and northern border, and our coasts? I mean, the Biden administration has made the decision to make us unsafe.
Senator Scott, as you I'm sure are aware, we had a train derailment here in Florida yesterday. It was mostly coal, one propane tank. Thankfully, we didn't see the kind of ecological disaster that they are likely going to be spending the next few decades cleaning up in East Palestine, Ohio. What more could be done for the residents of Ohio?
Well, the first thing you do is you show up. Would it take Buttigieg 2 or 3 weeks to show up? And Biden goes to Kyiv but doesn't even go to Ohio to see what's going on. Here's why you show up. I had hurricanes. I had mass shootings. You know why you show up? Because you can provide resources and you find out what people need. So what the Biden administration should be doing, and it should have been with the president, but at least Buttigieg, he's head of transportation supposedly, right? Show up and say, what do you need, right? And what do we need to make sure we're testing to make sure, the water's not contaminated, the air is not contaminated, and disclose all that information. Make people feel comfortable that you're solving every problem that you can. Look, you can't, it happened, right? We can't make that go away. So what do we do to make sure we make the citizens feel comfortable, right? And then what do we do? What do we have to look at and say, what do we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? What should we change? And part of it's a government solution. Part of it is these companies have to do their job.
Senator Scott, during the State of the Union address, as you're aware, President Biden had called you out a plan that you had that dealt with Social Security and Medicare. What is it about that plan that has the president's ire?
Because I call him out for what he's doing. He's bankrupting this country. I put out a plan. You can go to rescueamerica.com. And here's what I said. I said 2 things. One, we should start telling the American public what we're going to do when Medicare and Social Security go bankrupt. These supposed trust funds, there's no money in these trust funds. It's just a transfer. All that money's been spent that you paid in for Medicare and Social Security. It's all been spent. The federal government just has an IOU to it. So I said, let's tell people what we're going to do. They don't like that. Number 2 is, let's stop this wasteful spending. Do what families do. Go through your budget and say, you know what, that's a nice to have, but I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to do it differently. That's what I did when I was governor of Florida. So I said, let's review all the programs once a year, and if we want to keep it, we keep it. If not, we're not going to keep it. But what I'm talking about is things like we have 77,000 empty federal office buildings that we pay for. How many do you want to pay for? We got 6% of our budget is not even authorized that we spend every year. Why are we doing this? It's like we have credit cards and we never review. We just assume, it's always going to be perfect and nobody will ever do something on my credit card. And by the way, and believing we're just going to go to the bank forever and get it. So I'm going to fight to preserve Medicare and Social Security. But you can't do it if we don't balance our budget. It's impossible.
United States Senator Rick Scott joining us live here on WDBO. Senator, it's always a pleasure to be able to talk to you. Anything before we let you go?
I've got 9 offices in the state. They're there to help people. I do immigration, I do VA, I do Medicare issues, any federal issues. So just call one of my offices or go by and see them.
Senator Scott, thank you so much, as always.
All right, see you, Joe. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too. My name is Joe Kelley. Coming up at 6:36, by the way, we're going to talk to Florida Republican Senator Blaise Ignoglia about a bill that he has to eliminate the Democratic Party. So we'll get into that coming up in about 20 minutes from right now. Well, thank you much for joining us here on WDBO. Man, I got to tell you, there are a lot of people who are triggered by Rick Scott. Rick Scott, like any other politician, before he joins me on the radio, his team will send out a tweet saying, hey, I'll be on with @TalkRadioJoe on @WDBO, coming up tonight at 6:07. And invariably, whenever he does that, I get I don't know, 20 retweets here from people that just excoriate Rick Scott. Hang on a second. My allergies are killing me. Have you noticed how pollen is covering all of our vehicles right now? I mean, it has been so bad for allergies. And I'm just really in that season right now. Something kind of interesting that I don't know how much you guys have been experimenting with the Chat GPT, the Chat AI. So this is this new AI that you can ask all kinds of questions to. You can have it do all kinds of work for you. You can have it write news releases. You can have it write just all kinds of things. And I was just kind of kicking the tires on it earlier today. And knowing that I was going to be talking to Rick Scott later in the day, I asked the question. I'll tell you exactly how I phrased it. I asked the question, write interview questions for Florida Senator Rick Scott. That's all I wrote. And so the AI came up with initially 5 long questions, and then I did it again, and it came up with 10 shorter questions. But here's some of the AI questions that the AI came up with that I thought were interesting. The 2020 election results were repeatedly contested by former President Trump and his supporters, leading to the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. As a prominent Republican senator, what do you believe your party's role should be in ensuring the integrity of elections and preserving democracy? How interesting. Another question that the AI came up with was, the United States has been grappling with a rising tide of gun violence in recent years, with mass shootings becoming all too common. What policies do you believe are necessary to address this issue and protect Americans from gun violence? And then on some of the shorter questions it came up with, as a former Florida governor, what lessons did you learn that helped you as a senator? The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on Florida. What do you think what should be done to address the ongoing public health crisis and its economic fallout? And it just goes on and on and on. This chat GPT, chat AI, it's pretty fascinating stuff. And it's particularly how it's just come out of nowhere. I mean, none of us had this 6 months ago. Now everybody has access to it. There's a free version, and the free version is not always available. The paid version is $20 a month. That's for now. I would imagine it's going to get a whole lot more expensive in the days and weeks coming up ahead. Don't forget, we've got a launch attempt tonight. It'll be just after midnight at 12:34 a.m. From Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. The backup opportunity, if they don't launch tonight, is going to be Friday at 12:11 a.m. Regrettably, these are either really late night or early morning launches, and it's a lot harder to get out to the Space Coast for the late night and early morning launches, because then you got to decide, well, wait a minute, am I going to stay awake all night before I go, or am I going to try to take a nap and then go, or am I going to go to bed and then just get up really early and go? This is the hell that is my life. These are the questions that I've always got to come up with answers for. So, but anybody who's going to go see it tonight, hit me up. I'd love to know your secret places of where you're going to go. There's a place in Titusville that I like to go to. There's a bunch of restaurants at a parking lot. And when I go, I just fly the drone up anyway. So I've got to fly it in a no-fly zone. And most of the Cape, particularly during a launch, is a no-fly zone. And if they do allow flight, generally you cannot fly a drone over, say, 100 feet. And certainly under all conditions, you cannot fly a drone over 400 feet. But they usually keep it pretty limited during the rocket launches, which is entirely understandable. The state of Oregon is weighing whether or not to give homeless and low-income people $1,000 a month in universal basic income. Universal basic income, UBI. Oregon's bill is the latest in blue states looking to give handouts to people as part of a universal basic income program, a UBI program. According to Bill Track 50, the legislation would provide 12 monthly payments of $1,000 to individuals who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, are severely rent burdened, or earn at or below 60% of the area median income. What do you think about giving money, which would ultimately be $12,000, giving money to homeless people, $1,000 a month? And I don't see where it says it has to be spent on housing. One would hope that would be part of the requirement there, that it has to be spent on housing. Otherwise, you're just giving them $1,000 a month to go, buy weed and heroin and meth and whatever, alcohol and whatever else they can get their hands on. Coming up in a moment, we're going to talk to the Florida Republican lawmaker who is trying to outlaw, if you will, the Democratic Party He's trying to cancel the Democratic Party here in Florida. We'll talk to him coming up next. Stay with us. Well, I'm so glad you're joining us here on WDBO. I'm Joe Kelley. It's at Talk Radio Joe. Check out the podcast, Behind the News with Joe Kelley. If you ever miss any part of the show, you can catch up anywhere you get your podcast, and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, in the WDBO app at WDBO.com. Pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. In fact, I think everywhere you get your podcasts, you'll be able to get Behind the News with Joe Kelley. Joining us now is Florida State Senator Blaise Ingoglia from Spring Hill, Republican Senator Blaise Ingoglia. Blaise, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Sure, my pleasure, Joe.
So let me just quote for you, and I think you'll know this quote as I start, and then I'll explain it to our listeners. The quote is this: ridiculous, extremist, out of touch, violates First Amendment. That is some of what the Florida House Democrats' Twitter account had to say about your bill that looks to potentially cancel the Florida Democratic Party. Explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, so yesterday we filed a bill called the Ultimate Cancel Act. And this is a bill that says the state of Florida shall immediately decertify any political party that has advocated and adopted pro-slavery positions in their party platforms. Now, when you look back at history, the Democrats have years and decades where they not only advocated for slavery, but they advocated for the expansion of slavery. So this would actually mean that the Democrats would have to be canceled themselves. And why this is important? Because over the years, we have seen leftist Democrats cancel people, places, and things, pulling down monuments, taking down statues, renaming buildings. Why? Because of something that the people did 250 years ago, and a lot of that was tied to slavery. So if you apply the same metric and you apply the same standard, then the Democrat Party itself should be canceled as well.
Now, I can see my listeners in my head right now in their cars as they're driving, and a whole lot of them are shaking their heads up and down going, amen, yes, absolutely so. But what are the odds that you can pass this kind of legislation to cancel the Democratic Party?
So I don't know what the odds are because I don't know, just like any bill, we don't know if it's actually going to make it across the finish line. But what would be interesting is to sit in committee and see if Democrats themselves would vote for or against this proposal. Because if they voted against this proposal, then they're basically saying that, yes, it is okay for a political party to advocate for slavery. I would love to see that being heard in committee.
Now, that is interesting because sometimes, and I mentioned this yesterday when I first read about your bill, and for those that know me, I am rarely able to detect sarcasm. And I know that sometimes lawmakers in states and around the nation and in the U.S. Congress, I know sometimes lawmakers will put together bills that are designed to be sarcastic, that are designed to not really be passed, but to make a point, or to, as you kind of alluded to making a lawmaker go on the record on a particular topic. Would you suggest that's what kind of bill this is?
I would say that it's all of the above. This is supposed to be thought-provoking. You know, one of the things that I really want to drill home to Democrats in this state, Democrats across the United States, because this bill has garnered national news very, very quickly, is that there's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Democrats sitting there and say, I had no idea that the party that I'm registered to actually voted for and adopted slavery positions, pro-slavery positions in their party platform. I want that to happen. Now, look, if the bill passes, there are provisions where we don't disenfranchise voters. They will become NPA voters, non-party affiliated voters, so they would still be allowed to vote in elections, or the Democrats can go change their name to something else. And, Joe, I have the perfect name for the new Democrat Party.
Oh, I can't wait.
The hypocrites. They're hypocrites. Because everything that they're doing with cancel culture is absolutely hypocritical.
Particularly in the light in which you're shedding with this bill, with their support for
Absolutely.
slavery.
Absolutely. And it's not just like, look, the Democrats are backpedaling. You know, Nikki Fried, who just took over the Democrats, God bless her, she's going to need a lot of blessings because she's taking over a train wreck of a party. I've got them freaking out so much that they don't know which way is up. Nikki Fried issued a press release this morning from the Florida Democrat Party saying that if this bill passes, then 4 to 5 million, I forgot the number, it was 4 or 5 million registered voters in the state of Florida would drop their affiliation and be an MPA. She basically admitted that this would affect the Democrat Party. And why would it do that? Because she's tacitly admitting that the Democrat Party is the party that adopted pro-slavery positions in their party platform.
Well, and in one sense, it is not terribly unlike the Don't Say Gay bill. Let me say the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, because the word gay is not even in the Don't Say Gay bill. My understanding is the word Democrats is not in the Ultimate Cancel Act.
It's not. We put it in the press release for background because we actually had to point reporters to see which parties actually had it in there. Look, let's talk about cancel culture here for a minute, and this will segue back into what you were talking about, the House Democrats and my Twitter exchange with them. It's funny, when you look at that Twitter exchange, they were like, well, this happened over 250 years ago. Well, that's the whole point of cancel culture. Cancel culture itself dictates that no matter what you have done today, you must pay for the sins of your past, and no matter when that happened. So they're claiming that the party is evolved and they're this and they're that. It doesn't matter according to cancel culture. It's your rules. It's the Democrat rules. Your rules say that if something happened 250 years ago, no matter what happened today, you should be canceled. And that's what this bill does.
You know, I wish I could say that you were wrong. I wish I could say that that's not what people are really like. But yeah, that's exactly what people are like. I mean, people are looking to cancel people from 200 years ago because of actions 200 years ago, which negates any possibility of redemption. I mean, it's like nobody can be redeemed anymore. And that to me is the most frustrating part. It just completely negates human redemption.
And the Democrat spin machine is out in full force. I just got off of the phone with a reporter who said that they have a historian that says that this bill would actually cancel the Republican Party too. And I'm like, oh, really? How do you reconcile that? They said in 1860, the Republican Party platform actually advocated for slavery. And I said, no, it didn't. I think you need a new historian. The Democrat in 1860, that was the very first Republican Party platform. The Republican Party was founded as an and this is what I told the reporter. The Republican Party was founded as an anti-slavery party. So you're telling me that an anti-slavery party actually put pro-slavery tenets in their party platform. These people are nuts, Joe. They're just going to make up stuff to try to gloss over the fact that it's the Democrats who are pushing for the expansion of slavery.
If anybody wants to follow this bill, it is Senate Bill 256, and again, it is. I'm sorry, that's not the right one. That's your other one you're doing.
I don't know which one off. It might be 1258. I'm not sure.
It's 12. Yeah, it's 1248. So look for Senate Bill 1248, and it's the Ultimate Cancel Act, and it is sponsored by Florida State Senator Blaise Ingoglia, Republican out of Spring Hill. Blaise, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I love your passion, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.
All right, so it was my sons who really showed me how to use the chat GPT, the chat bot. And I thought it was funny that when I was with them Sunday, my son, I watched as he put it in, and he told the chat bot, write an Eminem style rap about my father. That was all he said. So you want to hear the rap that the chat bot came up with? Laurel, do you want to hear this?
1,000% I do.
Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can get a beat here. I'm not sure if this works. I shouldn't let you know I'm not an accomplished rapper. Yo! It's Brooks, and I'm back with a mission to roast my dad who needs a dietitian. He's overweight, yeah, it's plain to see, but I think he's got some agility. I'm here to tell him, Dad, you're in trouble. You need to lay off the snacks and cut back on the double. I know it might sound harsh, but I speak the truth. I don't want you to end up with a heart that's uncouth. And then it goes into the chorus. Brooks roasting his overweight father. It's time to make some changes. No time for laughter. We hit the gym. We'll eat right. We'll do what it takes to keep us in sight. I love you, Dad, but I got to be real. We got to change your ways if you want to heal. Then it goes into verse 2. Another chorus. Verse 3. Another chorus. That's how much rap music it wrote. Now, at no point did I hear Brooks say that my dad is fat to the chatbot, but for some reason the chatbot seems to think I'm fat. Now, can anybody comment on that? Laurel, could you?
What?
Could you comment on that?
I think my headphones are going. Sorry, what?
Really?
They're what?
Am I fat?
No, you're the skinniest person in the world.
I don't know. Randy and I are close, probably.
Yeah, you two are both very tall and very skinny.
Randy, how tall are you? You and I are the same height, right? 6'2"?
Close enough.
And are we the same weight? 180?
I'm a little more than that.
Okay. You're probably a little bit taller than me, too.
I think just a little.
Yeah, I think so, too. So anyhow, I just thought that was amazing, though, what these chatbots are doing. And then, of course, my sons tell me that that's pretty much they're writing all their reports now. I mean, everybody at school is using the chatbots to write their essays. I mean, isn't that crazy?
And I'm amazed by the technology, but I'm so scared about where this is going to lead, right?
Well,
if I don't have to write my own songs anymore, you know, what if we don't have to write our own movies anymore because the bots are going to do it?
This is the same thing that freaked me out when I saw the Scott Adams Dilbert racist rant. I thought there's no way this is real. I mean, you don't know what to believe anymore. You don't know what to believe is real and what's not real.
The rock band Avenged Sevenfold just got hacked, and somebody made a deep fake with their voice and their faces and posted it to their accounts saying that they were breaking up or something, and people believed it because that's how advanced we've gotten.
I'm telling you, as a news consumer, if you thought you couldn't trust the media now, you can't trust anybody, anything, anywhere now, because the deep fakes and the technology is so good to fool people online. If you're not standing face to face with someone and hearing it, literally from the horse's mouth, you might want to doubt everything that you hear moving forward.